Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today, this is a very special movie to me. Very special. I actually watched it recently, but because of my memory is so shit when I watch anything, I will try and remember it for you today in this segment called Blind, Deaf, and Epic Movie Reviews. I will not say that ever again. I will just type that because I will never want to say blind, deaf, and epic ever again, because I thought of that in like 3 seconds, and I don't want to say blind, deaf, and epic because it just might offend some epic people, you know. This movie is a predecessor for neo-capitalism. Don't catch me wrong. Have you ever thought of your life as being anything better after B-Movie dropped? B-Movie is literally the turn of the century. It was like the invention of the steam engine. You could travel across lands in your own mind when you watch B-Movie. It's like a psychedelic trip every time. Like once it starts up, once you see those credits, you're in absolute bliss. Like, Jerry Seinfeld is on this. Wow. That's just... wow. I love Jerry Seinfeld. The movie starts off with Barry B. Benson. Yes, I can remember the character's name this time. Barry B. Benson. I might not remember anyone else. So Barry B. Benson, choosing black and yellow, ooh, would shake it up a little when he's choosing his sweaters because, you know, black and yellow. He's a bee. Like, it makes sense. So he's a bee, so he wears black and yellow sweaters. It's a very nice concept. So it goes down to his bee parents, in which this concept falls through the roof if you know anything scientific about bees. Bees do not have families, they have queens. So, this movie is not entirely scientifically accurate, I'm sorry. This movie, it sort of takes its own place in reality, such as a black hole or a car parked in between white lines. Barry B. Benson goes down to his family's, and then after that, visits his friend, which I already forgot the fucking name of, so I'm just gonna call him Kevin. His name is fucking Kevin! Alright? Don't fucking say anything! So Kevin and Barry B. Benson go off and look for a job, you know? Like something capitalists do every day. So, while they're looking for jobs, Barry B. Benson is sort of worried that if he's going to be stuck in the same position his whole life, in which case, yes, that would be scientifically accurate, but I don't think bees do one job their whole life. I don't know anything about bees, but I think bees do a lot of things. And so Barry B. Benson wants to do a lot of things. He wants to do more things for his hive, so he sort of wanders off from the tour like Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. So he Willy Wonka in the chocolate factories the people that's taking him around his job, and gets to meet the big guys, the bees that go out and get the pollen with the pollen guns. I hope there's regulation on those pollen guns. Believe me, pollen is an extremely high-level threat to people with asthma, and I'm just worried about that. But anyways, so the pollen jocks say to him to come around at 200 a.m. or something, 200 in the morning. I think I know what that means. It's like 200 is 200 minutes. Starting from like 1 a.m. so probably around 4 a.m. They go on the launch pad, and then one of the lines in the movie is where, like, the B general goes up to Barry B. Benson and says, "You think you're B enough?" And Barry B. Benson is like, "Yeah, I'm B enough." And so he's strapped with a pack. I don't think it's very safe to give Barry B. Benson or any incarnation of Jerry Seinfeld as a person should not hold a weapon. Like, that is extremely dangerous, and this movie is treading on fucking ice. I swear. Like, I've tried to report this to the DEA. Pollen jocks be regulated with their equipment. You know when the asthma comes up your nose. So they go out and they sort of fly around and look at the Chinese decorations outside. The not Chinese decorations are more like paper airplanes, and Barry B. Benson flies through them. How the average working American is flying through hoops every single day of this capitalist nightmare. Well, anyways, Barry B. Benson is trapped onto a tennis ball, and he's scared for dear life. He tries to cling on for help, but in a shocking turn of events, he is knocked out of the tennis court and into a car with 5 people. That's danger. That's a lot of danger. That's more danger than Jason Bourne's ever been in. Like, the little girl could have been killed. Just think about that. And after getting out the car, while almost being blown the fuck up several times and smashed, he goes and tries to fly back to his hive. But the rain starts. Like, you see the rain ominously billowing towards you through the entire cityscape of New York. It is breathtaking. The animation is spectacular. No wonder it took so many computer technologists to be on this. That rain is so realistic that I could almost touch it. I could feel like the water on my skin every time I see this scene. I swear, the rain comes down my eyes during this scene. Barry B. Benson goes down to the apartment where this girl named Vanessa and Joe from Family Guy lived there. So Vanessa and Joe from Family Guy was having a get together with one of Joe from Family Guy's friends, probably Quagmire. Giggity. And Barry B. Benson admires them from afar, but this is like a Romeo and Juliet tale. This would never work out in real life. Not in this social climate. And so, Barry B. Benson decides to sit and wait until he tries to go inside the house for food. And so, when Barry B. Benson goes inside the house, he is immediately stopped by the boyfriend, which I should just get a better name for than Joe from Family Guy. Let's just call him Patrick. So Patrick tries to kill him like a maniac with his size 10 Timberlands, and Vanessa stops him because Barry B. Benson is a living creature played by Jerry Seinfeld. And so after Barry B. Benson introduces himself to Vanessa, says, "You like jazz?" They make small talk. They go up to the roof, which they talk about bees and pollen. And in the background, there's this one dude that tries to put in a light bulb, but I think he just falls because he sees a bee and a woman just sitting there talking to each other, drinking coffee. I'm pretty sure the amount of coffee they've given this bee has been a lethal dose. But this is not a scientifically accurate movie. I'm pretty sure Barry would be dead right now in this part of the movie. Like, of old age, he'd be sitting there in his wheelchair like, "You like Chad?" And after this brief exchange, he goes back to the hive and tells, what the hell did I name him? Taylor. Let's just call him Taylor. Taylor, the other tall bee. You know Taylor, the other tall bee from Bee Movie. You know Taylor, also known as Tyler, also known as the creator. He was in the Bee Movie. No, he wasn't. I'm lying to you. Well, anyways, after telling Tyler that Barry was in love with Vanessa, the whole Romeo and Juliet-esque act begins. And so, Barry is seeing that the bees are being used. So, they go out. They go straight to the federal court, like the Supreme Court. It's very realistic. There was this whole side of bees along this other side of humans, and it's just, there's a bunch of bees just sitting on the table. Like, in the beginning, the humans were actually expecting the bees not to be able to talk, but how is there so much, like, leeway for the bees in this movie? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, there'd be another row of humans on the other half, because we're not entirely too sure that bees can speak at this point. And at this point, Barry B. Benson steps up to the judge and says, "Bzz, bzz, 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 bzz." Just ridiculous bullshit. And all the meanwhile, they hired this fat Southern man. He's thick. He's fucking thick, goddamn. In this court case, the lawyer is saying that Barry B. Benson could have been on steroids. In which case, this is a very realistic movie, and steroids was never brought up again. Because I don't think bees can take steroids. Did I mention there's a mosquito played by Chris Rock that takes Barry B. Benson to Auschwitz prison? They literally go to Auschwitz and they're being gassed by these evil beekeepers. Like, they're even animated evil. Like, you could see it in their eyes. They like have these really like intense angry stares in their eyes as they're dripping honey into this box. The beekeepers were evil and were spraying nicotine on the bees to get them to be calm down and relax so they could steal the honey. In which case, what nicotine does to bees in real life is that it stresses them out and it makes them produce more honey. So that's why they use nicotine at bee farms. So anyways, back to the court case. So Barry B. Benson is against this fat Southern dude that they hired to represent an entire whole honey corporation where they just sell honey, nothing else, no other products, just honey, and the byproducts of honey. So what Barry B. Benson does is that he takes a example of a bear, like Pooh Bear, like not the shit, just Pooh Bear, pairs it against a black grizzly bear from the wild. Like, it's just like the O.J. Simpson case, but the O.J. Simpson case is a Jerry Seinfeld movie where he's a bee in a bee world, animated by bees. So Barry B. Benson makes a convincing case, but meanwhile, the Southern guy wants to be a fucking racist and say that the bees don't have families, in which case they don't. They don't have families, they have queens. So my point from earlier was racist, I'm sorry, but this is absolute fact that bees don't have families, they have queens. So this enraged Tyler the Creator, and Tyler the Bee lunged forward and stung the Southern warrior, in which case none of you know the name of. No one knows the name of this character. I've tried to look up in the B-movie index. I think I've only seen the words Fat Warrior. He has no name. He is nameless. He is the desperado. So after Tyler the Bee stung Fat Southern Warrior, Tyler the Bee was shipped off to the hospital, like in intensive care, but Tyler should have been dead. Like, that sting removed his stinger, which is like half of his body, and they replaced it with a knife from a salad. That is insulting to bees. But anyway, so he gets there. Barry is like, I'm sorry. It's like, are you okay? And Tyler's like, yeah, I'm okay. I fucked up at everything, didn't I? And then Barry B. Benson's like, nah, we'll find a way. And then he looks out the window and sees a impressionable teen smoking, and he gets a great idea. So he rushes back to the courtroom and reveals a smoker and to the judge, in which case the judge should know about the cruelty of bees. Like, if it's the entire industry against the bees, then if the bees can communicate, then we are putting them through like harsh treatments of nicotine. Imagine if your body was like covered in crack all day. It'll make you itch. So they return to the courtroom, win the case, and within a week, all the bees stop working. And surprise, surprise, Barry B. Benson does not know the reasoning of supply and demand. This is why I said this movie is anti-capitalist in my before statement. In which case, if bees don't make the honey, they don't make the money. So all the flowers die. And Barry B. Benson is sad about it. So they make a plan to hijack an airplane to fly to this like rose festival of the roses in California, I think. And they were disguised as the Princess and the Pea, and Barry B. Benson was the pea. That was a size joke. Barry B. Benson is very small. Bees are very small. Do you know how big a bee is? A bee is about half the length of your finger. So they hijack the airplane, and no one says this is a terrorist group organization, and they rip off the pilot's wig, and thus killing him, because he does not have any other lines throughout the movie other than screaming help, and not just dying. He's dead. The bees killed him. And of course they land the plane and whatever. That's how the movie ends. There's no lesson to be learned from B-movies that capitalism supports the lower class by letting the earth not die. B-movie. Directed and written by Jerry Seinfeld. Only Jerry Seinfeld. Animated by Jerry Seinfeld. And spat out of his breast like Jerry Seinfeld.